So welcome everyone to the inaugural UCD in the Community Volunteering Awards. So for those of you who haven't met us before, my name is Threasaigh and this is Niamh, my colleague. I'm not sure which side she's on.
Hi.
Niamh and I work as part of the UCD in the Community team. And UCD in the Community is all about connecting our UCD community to the community, so our staff and students, and linking them in with the community. And that can be through community engaged teaching and learning, it can be through research, or it can be through volunteering. And volunteering is the reason we're all here tonight, and we're here to celebrate volunteering, and we're here especially to celebrate all of you and all the wonderful volunteering that you have been doing. So as I said, it's the first year of the awards. And I suppose the reason that we started the awards was that we could see, I suppose over the last few years, that there was amazing volunteering happening across the university. And there wasn't really, I suppose, well, I always say that volunteers are too busy being brilliant to tell other people how brilliant they are. So we want to tell you how brilliant you are, and we want to recognize and I suppose also thank you for the volunteering that you've done and the commitment and the dedication you have to the UCD community, but also to the wider community, which is amazing. So well done, everyone. And also another part of volunteering and part of the awards is that we wanted you to reflect on the volunteering that you've done. And I suppose really look at the contribution you've made and the great things that you've done for the local community, which is brilliant as well. So I'm going to hand you over to Niamh, who's going to tell us what's going to happen for the evening.
Yeah, great, thank you. So just this evening then you will hear from our two lovely guest speakers, Professor Joe Carthy and Patrick O'Neill. We're also going to show you three videos from our bronze, gold and silver awardees who are here this evening, and just a little snapshot into the volunteering that they've been a part of over the last year. You'll also then hear from our second guest speaker, Patrick O'Neill, before we move on to calling out all you lovely awardees and your award. So I do hope you have a truly lovely evening, and a huge congratulations to you all for your commitment and contribution to volunteering over the last year, and of course over the last many years that you've all been involved with doing that. So I will now hand you over to Professor Joe Carthy, who is the Director of UCD in the Community and who also co-founded UCD in the Community in 2016. Joe has been heavily involved in many projects within the community and voluntary sector, and he's also secured much needed funding for many of UCD's research and education projects. He is currently a board member of CyberSafe Ireland, a charity which empowers children, parents and teachers to navigate the online world in a safe way. So over to you, Joe.
Thanks very much, Niamh. And again, just to re-echo Theresa's welcome to you all. This is our first inaugural ceremony, so you're all very welcome. Student volunteers play a key role in the life of UCD. You run our societies, you run our sports clubs, you act as class representatives, you act as peer mentors, and you do so much more. So the UCD wouldn't be the university it is without the involvement of so many hundreds and hundreds of students given freely of their time. So it's really important, and it adds also to our contribution to the community, our civic engagement as well, by you bringing your knowledge out to community organisations, and that's just brilliant. And there's so many benefits from volunteering. There's benefits for yourselves, that it gives a sense of purpose, it develops some work skills such as communication skills, time management, teamwork is so important, teamwork nowadays. It fosters well-being and safeguards against self-isolation, and that, so it builds that sense of community. And as I mentioned, it fosters active citizenship in the local community as well. And I'll say a bit more about that later on. It's a benefit for us in the university. It deepens our relationship with our community, and our community is not just Dublin 4, it's a community in Ireland, or it's a community beyond Ireland as well. And our guest speaker will give you an idea of what I mean by that. And it develops you as future leaders as well, to consider volunteering as part of your contribution to our society. And for the organisations that you work with and we work with, it increases their capacity to do stuff. They draw on your energy and your skills, and it gives them great motivations, and it supports future volunteers and future employees in the voluntary sector as well. So this evening we want to recognise the great effort you put in so many ways and in a great variety of volunteering activities. Well done to you all. But one of the points we'd like to make is that we'd like you to continue volunteering once you leave UCD. That volunteering, whether you're 18 years of age or whether you're 80 years of age, there are volunteering opportunities for you. There'll be times in your life when other commitments come up that you don't have that much time for volunteering. But I think it's really worth remembering that you can still support volunteering. For example, on Saturdays, I go for walks in my area and there are people picking up litter off the streets and tidying it up and that, and they're volunteers. And I nowadays stop and say, well done, and encourage them. And I feel guilty, I'm not doing it myself, but at least I give a word of support and encouragement. And I think that's very important for yourselves going forward, to when you see somebody volunteering, say, tap them on the shoulder and say, well done, you're doing a great job. And as volunteers, I'm sure you've experienced that yourselves. When somebody says it's well done, it's not why you do it, but it's so nice to get a little bit of recognition as well. And sometimes there's what I call zero commitment opportunities to volunteer. If you've ever been at a meeting in a community hall or something like that, if you watch what's going on and ask yourself, who's going to put away the tables at the end of the night? Who's going to stack the chairs? Because this hall has to be got ready for basketball for Monday morning or something like that. And typically you find an old fella like me who's hanging there, hangs around, and I'm stacking the chairs when everybody else goes home. And if you stay for just 5 minutes, it can make such a difference to that volunteer. And that's a once-off opportunity where you spend 5 or 10 minutes and that, just keeping your eye open for, and always asking yourself in those situations, who's going to tidy up when we're finished here? And typically it's a volunteer who is willing to do it, but is also willing to take a little bit of help. The other thing I would say to you is, be on your guard against the criticism. And very often, those people who tidy the streets, one of the criticisms they get is people say, well, the council should be doing that. You shouldn't have to pick litter off the streets. We're paying taxes to the council and we're paying taxes to the government, so our taxes should pay that. And that's a very incomplete knowledge of how taxes work. And the reality is, whether you like it or not, we don't pay nearly enough taxes for the services that we need and that. So we need various services provided by government, health, education, and so on and so forth. And there's simply not enough money to do all the jobs that need to be done. And that's where volunteering, unfortunately, has to step in, or fortunately steps in. And you might realize it, but in 2013, it was estimated that 2 billion euros were contributed to the Irish economy through volunteering activities. And that's 8 years ago. So 2 billion voluntary activities in the charity sector, and people volunteering like yourselves. When you put a cost on it, if you were to pay for that, it would cost 2 billion euros. In 2014, 23 billion pounds in the UK for volunteering. So volunteering is actually hugely important from an economic point of view, and the state simply couldn't replace the volunteers. If all the volunteers in Ireland stopped tomorrow, it would be a huge shock to the Irish economy, and we wouldn't have the means to support all the activities that get done. So volunteering is not this nice little bit that gets done. It's actually essential for the running of the country as well, and that. So be aware of the contribution. You're making a huge contribution to UCD and to your communities by your volunteering. So it's valuable, it's important, and that's why we're here tonight, to recognise that. And it's a great privilege here to recognise your contributions tonight, to encourage you to keep volunteering, and to thank you for your activities so far. So I'm going to pass back now to Niamh, and we'll proceed with the rest of the ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jo. That was a really lovely nod to volunteering, the importance from the very small things to the much bigger pieces of volunteering that goes on. And it does indeed ensure that the country is run. There's many organisations that simply just would not be able to run without volunteers. They're completely volunteer-led. So now we are going to show you our videos, which are going to show you a nice snapshot from 3 of our awardees in their bronze, silver and gold category. So you can just sit back and relax and listen.
Hiya, my name is Shauna Harris. I'm from Dublin. I'm studying a social sciences degree in politics and social justice in UCD. I volunteered with Team Hope Ireland at the end of last year and Ferogi Youth Club at the start of this year. I started volunteering during the pandemic, as a lot of people were isolated in their homes, myself included, and I thought it was a really nice way to give back and help connect people. I decided to volunteer with Team Hope Ireland around Christmas time because of their Christmas shoebox appeal. Usually people would send in cans of food and non-perishables for the Christmas shoebox appeal, but because of COVID you weren't allowed to send things from your own household. So Team Hope Ireland came up with the idea to do surveys online instead. And as many surveys as you filled in was then transferred into points, and then these points were transferred into money, which were used as funds to create the shoeboxes. And I thought it was a really great idea as well that the shoeboxes were going internationally. They were going to kids in the Middle East and in Africa, which I thought was great. I also then chose to volunteer with Feroga Youth Club at the start of this year because they were hoping to trial running workshops online. And I thought that was a really great idea because there were a lot of kids in the countryside around the country who were in particular very isolated from other people, and it was a really nice way to connect kids. So I volunteered to be the arts and crafts teacher, and it was so nice every week seeing the kids create art and just have their own space to be themselves and have fun. I'd say that my people skills have improved, my organisational skills, time management, analytical thinking, attention to detail. There's so much. I actually was awarded the UCD Advantage Award in recognition of the skills I've developed through volunteering this year. Yes, definitely. I really hope to keep up volunteering in the future. I think it's something that I'll take with me, and I think it's something that everyone can benefit from because not only are the skills easily transferable to whatever sector you decide to work in, it's just really great to give back and it gives you a sense of fulfillment.
So, hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm a final year food science student in University College Dublin, and I'm from Mayo. I suppose during my time in UCD I've volunteered with an array of organisations. I've been a peer mentor, a first year peer mentor for the last 2 years, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. And then during the summer of 2020 I co-organised a half marathon for Moria Camp refugees. And this was a really rewarding experience, especially during the ongoing global pandemic. I suppose volunteering has always been a family value of ours, and from an early age we've always participated and helped out the best we could, organisations and that at home. And then in 2015 I volunteered with the Malin-Educate organisation in South Africa, and this was a really fulfilling experience but also demanding at the same time. And ever since then I always try to contribute and get involved with organisations since then. I suppose firstly I wanted to give back to the first year students because it can be daunting coming from second level to third level. And it's always nice to give advice and tips that you've learned along the way. And then for the half marathon, I've always had an interest in running, and I think COVID-19 kind of harnessed that creativity, so I wanted to do something that was different while raising awareness for these refugees. Yes, definitely. I think it's really important, especially as I'll be graduating next year. I think it's a great addition to your CV because it enhances your skill set, and you learn so many skills such as creativity, your communication skills, leadership skills, and also your interpersonal skills and your social skills, which are vital. Definitely. I think I'll always try and volunteer the best I can in organisations as I encounter them throughout life, because I think it's always important to kind of make your impact on the world. Although it might be small, but collectively we can change things.
Hi, my name is Sangha, and I'm currently finishing up with a PhD at UCD. I started volunteering in UCD right from the first year. I was always looking for opportunities to work on short-term projects and things like that. And in my second year I signed up to be an orientation guide during the new academic session, and following on from that I volunteered at the UCD Festival 2 years in a row. I really enjoyed that. And my longest development work in UCD has been with UCD Volunteers Overseas, where I signed up to be a team coordinator with them in the academic year 2019-2020. I wanted to do that program because I've always been interested in international development, and through that program I've gained a lot of knowledge and exposure to global issues and social justice issues and what I could do about it. And since then I've signed up to become an Antarctica Climate Ambassador and an SDG advocate with development perspectives. So I've gained a lot of exposure to knowledge and to networks in this area, especially those who are based in Ireland. I think that volunteering is for everybody, regardless of the stage of study, and personally have gained a lot of confidence as well in my own abilities and pursuing my own passions and interests. Recently I've also started my own social enterprise on food waste, and I'm currently making connections in that area. That's all for me. Thank you.
Brilliant. That was so inspiring to hear from our three students. A huge thank you to Shauna, to Jennifer and to Sangha for sharing their stories with us, and also to Mark from the SU who helped with the editing. We really appreciate it. And there were so many different points in that I think really stood out for me. In particular, I think around the creativity that you've shown, that you have shown as volunteers, but also that organisations have shown over the past year and a half. And it's always nearly easier to just, I suppose, sit back and do nothing. But it's amazing to see that so many of you have stepped up and have done something over the last year to support your communities. And I think what Jennifer was saying about, you know, if you do something, it has an impact. And I think that's so important, and really great for you to recognise that as well. So our next guest this evening is UCD alumnus, and I call him a volunteer extraordinaire, Patrick O'Neill. So Patrick is a good friend of us here in UCD in the community. He has a long history with UCD. He actually would put us all to shame because he has not only a degree, he has a HDip and 2 masters from UCD, which is very impressive. But he started out his life, his career as a chartered accountant, and then retrained as a teacher, and completed his masters in education a number of years ago in UCD. He has been working in Blackrock College for the last 10 years and is currently the Dean of Transition Year. But I suppose what he's here to talk to you about tonight is his volunteer journey, which started out with UCD Volunteers Overseas. And like some of you here today, he volunteered with UCD VO during his time in UCD. And he actually, I suppose, started back at nearly the start of VO in 2006. He went out to Haiti. And I think that started a love affair with the country and with the Haitian people. And since then, he's been out to Haiti, I think he said 19 times and counting. And he even set up his own NGO and charity called Soléy Haiti. But I don't need to be telling you all that. We want to hear from Patrick himself. And I think what I'm really looking forward to hearing is about how his, I suppose, start in volunteering in college, how he took that through his career and how it has formed him and shaped him as a person. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Patrick.
Hi everyone, and thanks a million to Therese for the introduction. I feel like I'm only going to ruin that by speaking now, so I'm tempted to leave it there. But so there's it's great to see you all virtually, and I'm very, very humbled and honored to have been asked by the great people and friends of mine in UCD in the community to speak to you. And after hearing about all the many areas that you've volunteered in before tonight and seen those videos, I think we could easily have this the wrong way around, and I should be hearing from you guys. But as Theresa said, I'm a teacher in Blackrock College and Haiti, and teaching and Haiti are the 2 biggest passions in my life. My life would be entirely different were it not for becoming a teacher, the relationship I have with the people of Haiti. And, it isn't an exaggeration to say that I've UCD to thank for that. I'm biased, of course, but I really do believe UCD it's a special place that offers so much to its students that that stretches far beyond merely academics. And since 2003, when I started in UCD, it's been a big part of my life, and I really am delighted to be able to share a little bit of my story with you this evening. As I approached my final year in commerce back in, I suppose it would have been 2005, 2006, I was on what was a pretty conventional path. I was doing my commerce degree. I had a job sorted with Deloitte and Touche for after my time in UCD, and I suppose it was kind of full steam ahead for the accountancy route. But all of that changed in my last year in college. And I'd love to be able to sit here and tell you that I was very socially conscious throughout my childhood, and that it was a natural thing that I ended up volunteering in Haiti. But truthfully, that wasn't the case. It was my last year in college. I was looking for something different to do at the end of the year, and I'd heard about UCD VO. Thought this looks interesting, could be fun. I knew one of the lads in my course was applying, so I thought, why not? Something different for the summer. But little did I know, of course, that this seemingly small decision was going to change my life entirely. And I can remember really clearly the day I handed my application form in. At the time, there was two places you could go to at UCD VO, Delhi or Haiti. To my shame, I had never heard of Haiti. So I ticked Delhi. And I was walking into the main entrance UCD to hand in my application form, and I rang my friend from commerce that I knew who was applying. And I asked him where he was applying. He said Haiti, and being the sheep that I am, I crossed out Delhi and put down Haiti instead. And I suppose why I think of that and why I mention it is, for all of us here, whatever stage of life we're at, student or otherwise, there's lots of pressures at different stages of our lives. Exams, career paths we're going to go down, relationship, families, and I think human nature is we look for certainty in life. We want a plan around the outcomes. We feel a sense of control over all these variables in our lives on a day-to-day basis. But I often think of that phone call to give me a sense of perspective as I personally try to, manage life and its stresses and all the variables. But as I said, it might seem strange or maybe dramatic, but that seemingly irrelevant phone call completely changed my life. What if I'd never made that call? I could have gone to Delhi, had a fine time, and just moved on and continued the path I was going on. I wouldn't be teaching today. I wouldn't be connected to Haiti. And as I say, I couldn't imagine my life without either of those two things. So sometimes I think when, if you ever feel yourself getting stressed, maybe, I often think, it's a cliche or it's a well-known saying, but it's well-known because it's true. What's for you won't pass you. So just make your decisions as best you can, and things will invariably lead you to where you're supposed to be. I came across a quote recently that I wrote down on my phone when I came across it, because it just really struck a chord at me. And it was Mark Twain. He said that there's the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. And it was Haiti that gave me that second why. And of course it took time to figure out the nuances of that why, but it was really Haiti changed everything for me. And I remember that first day volunteering in Haiti in 2006, where one of our projects was a sports and literacy camp for the poorest primary school children of the area. And I had a group of 4 to 6 year old girls. And, that first day, we did lots of fun activities between sports, arts, singing, dancing, and so on. And it was just their endless energy, their endless smiles, their screams, and I mean screams of fun and laughter, it was incredible. And being a part of making that difference to them or contributing to them, it just gave me a feeling I'd never felt before, or lit a spark that I didn't know was there. I'd never been in a classroom before. I'd never worked with kids before, but that feeling was something that's very hard to describe. That feeling of, I don't know, is it the pit of your stomach, your heart feeling full? Is it just utter contentment? And a level of happiness at the end of that day, a level of happiness I'd never felt. That a sense of purpose, a motivation, a drive like never before. And I went to bed that night and I couldn't wait for the next morning. I just wanted to get going the next day and the next day and the next day. And it never left then, and I'd like to think it hasn't left now. But when I reflect on that day and the days since, those connections, those moments with the kids, I didn't give them money. I didn't give them sweets. All I gave them was my best efforts, my time, my care, my affection, just whatever my best was, I gave that to them. And and I got infinitely more in return than I ever could have imagined. But I think that that self-awareness, or that spark or light switch beginning to go off of, I suppose, an awareness of self, an awareness maybe of a potential that's there that you never knew existed, was a really, really powerful and formative moment for me. And now I didn't have all my answers there and then in the summer of 06 at age 20. And I know you're thinking there now, you know, look at me thinking, there's no way he was 20 in 2006. He's devilishly handsome and looks extremely young. But believe it or not, I'm in my mid-30s. But what I did know, that feeling each day I had in Haiti, as you know, I moved on that summer, came back to Ireland, I knew what I did with my life simply had to give me that same sense of purpose, of mission. Now, I was so far along the chartered accountancy route that, you know, it made sense to finish that off, get the qualification. But I knew that teaching, being in a classroom, working with kids was where my heart was, where I had to get to. And, you know, thankfully, where I've been now for just over 10 years. You know, alongside, I suppose, career or qualifications, I continued to bring groups of UCD students to Haiti between 2007 and 2015 with UCD VO, before bringing groups over to Haiti with a very dear friend of mine and the UCD in the community, the late and great Father Tony Coote. You know, we brought groups over informally through his parishes before I eventually established the NGO myself, Soléy Haiti, in 2018, and thankfully we're still going. What I hope is strong since. But I think back to that one phone call back in 06, what was supposed to be one summer experience to finish off my time in college. It led me to change careers, spend 15 years and counting working on behalf of the people of the community of Grosmorn in Haiti. Led me to finding friendships that have stood the test of time and hopefully will last long into the future. And I suppose why I mentioned this is, I think, and it goes back to that Mark Twain quote about the day you discover why. And to me, it's so important to discover your why. What is it that gives you that deep sense of fulfillment? And maybe it will be the many fantastic causes that you're involved with and that you work for. Maybe it will lead you to a path where you discover your why. But I think it's so important that, you know, you demand this of and for yourself. That feeling of feeling fulfilled, feeling driven, motivated, full of purpose. It's an incredibly addictive feeling, and it's something that, you know, maybe you're scratching the surface of at the moment, but I can promise you, it gets better and better and better, and you should never stop exploring that. And I frequently go to bed thinking about the next day in school, and I can't wait to get in. Or I think about the upcoming plans for Haiti, and I'm so excited by it, and all because of what UCD has given me. And, you know, like I said, sometimes in life, as we explore our why, search for that sense of fulfillment I mentioned, we can overthink things or even overcomplicate it. And, you know, I suppose in hindsight, when I reflect on it, the greatest things in my life and what has given me so much joy all came about quite simply because of the opportunity UCD and the great people that work there provided to me as a student with UCD VO. All I had to do was say yes. So if I had one piece of advice for you, it would be continue to say yes to the opportunities that life in UCD and beyond brings you, especially those that bring you out of your comfort zone, that maybe scare you a little bit, because it's through these experiences you experience the most growth, the most, where you will discover the most about yourself. But I want to finish this evening by telling you two short stories from my time in Haiti. First, in the summer 2017, one part of our project was to build a house for a family identified by our local partners as being in desperate need of a house. You know, and thank God we were able to raise sufficient finance to make it happen. But I want to share with you the answer Madam Adesola, the single mum of the household, of the beneficiary, gave us when we asked her, as part of our post-project feedback process. We asked her the question, can you tell us how the lives of the children have changed? And this is what Madam Adesola said. Yes, I can tell you how their lives have changed. When the kids were in the broken house, the kids did not feel like they were normal, because they always got wet when it rained. The cold would get to them and the wind would hit them. They would also be afraid when there was a storm. They would say, Mama, do you think the house is going to fall down on us? The children would always ask me that. There were also insects that would bite them and spiders would climb on them. Any animal could enter the house. But now I have the new house and these things do not happen anymore. And her, like I've read those words literally hundreds of times, and I find them so impactful every single time because of how, I suppose, how vivid, how visual it is. And it's just, like I say, I always find it so powerful. But I also want to tell you a story about, finally, a little girl named Auntie Aline, who was age 5 when I first met her. We were running one of our sports and literacy camps in the Bigay community, which is an isolated part of Haiti. Truly, the poverty here is at its most extreme. You know, we were in one of the early days of camps, and I noticed a little girl standing at the gates of the school, just looking in. You know, I went over to talk to her, and I was, you know, I can think of the day right now. I was heartbroken by her. You know, she was dressed in very old, tattered clothes, but that wasn't the source of the heartbreak. Much more than that, it was than the very clear material poverty of her circumstance. It was the poverty of any kind of joy in her. Her eyes were just so very, very sad. You know, projects naturally of budgets have limits. You know, we'd love to be able to cater to all the kids in the community, but like I say, there's limits to budgets, and that's the accountant in me talking. But this day, you know, I broke all my rules and I said, budgets be damned, Auntie Aline needs to be in camp today. And we put her in the camp. And over the coming days, we discovered that she'd never been in school before. She couldn't read, she couldn't write. And really, shockingly, she was actually getting bullied from other kids in the camp because of just how poor she was, which to me, that blew my mind. And, you know, we gave Auntie Aline what any child craves: love, affection, attention. And bit by bit, this desperately sad little girl became a happy, joyful, cheeky kid full of development. And before we left that summer, we made sure she was enrolled into school for the coming year, taking care of supplies for school for her uniform. And just before I finish up, I wanted to, and I've just a couple of things I want to say at the end, but I just want to show you a little video of what I saw when I visited the school on a planning trip about 6 months after I first met Auntie Aline.
Ok. L'appelez-vous? Oui, oui.
Now, I didn't want to show you this video or tell you about the response from the mother of the family who built a house for to be self-indulgent or to give myself a pat on the back. Far from it. There is, you know, there's absolutely zero special about me. Anyone could do what I've done or been a part of. Why I bring it up is, and the point I want to make is, sometimes the depth of the causes you and I are involved in can naturally cause someone to question whether we can make a difference. Think of Haiti right now. Think of the homelessness crisis here at home. And you think, my God, how can anyone make a dent in these issues? What I would say to you is, whatever your cause is that has brought you here this evening, or wherever you are being of service to others, approach it not trying to change the world. Try and change somebody's world. Identify a need you can affect through who you are and try and make their lives just that little bit better. And I think if you think of what you're involved in, I think you could probably think of your own anti-Aline in whatever form that may be. I want to thank everyone for listening. I'm sorry for rabbiting on. I just want to congratulate each and every one of you on your award this evening. It's just fantastic. And I think, UCD and the community recognizing you is well deserved and such a wonderful event to be at, that I feel, as I said, very humbled to be here. But I want to congratulate you most importantly on what the award represents, the capacity of each and every one of you to make a difference. And I just say, keep making that difference. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was really wonderful to listen to. I actually feel really humbled listening to all of that and everything that you've done. Thank you so much. So before we say any more, we want to just now move on to show you all of our lovely awardees that are here and present you with your awards. Threasaigh will start off calling out for your bronze and silver, and before we move on to our gold.
Right, thank you, Niamh. So obviously we hoped to have been doing this in person, but obviously with COVID restrictions, up until about 2 weeks ago, we thought we would be in person, but the next best thing is online, and we all get to do this from the comfort of our home, which is lovely. We're not out in the cold. So as Niamh said, we'll start with our bronze awardees, and hopefully this will work. And we will start with Ana Colo Esteban Lopez Vaz, and they would have volunteered as a peer mentor in medicine. So my computer, sorry, now is having a life of its own. Then we have Ellen Cronin, and Ellen also volunteered as a peer mentor. We have Emma O'Hare. Emma volunteered with UCD Global and with Tribes Press in Galway. We have Nathalie Olivia Hedrick, and Nathalie volunteered as a UCD peer mentor. We have Shauna Harris, and Shauna, who you heard from earlier, volunteered with Veroiga and Team Hope Ireland. We have Shirley Woong, who volunteered with Serve and Path Community Mentoring. And then we have finally Stephanie Toolis, who volunteered as a peer mentor with UCD Student Legal Service, with UCD Hispanic Society, and with the European Law Student Association. So well done to all our bronze awardees. And then we have our silver awardees. So we have Onyegiri, Amarachukwu, Praise, who volunteered with Team Hope as well. We have Jennifer Tuffy, who volunteered as a peer mentor and organised fundraiser for Moira Camp refugees, which you heard about earlier. And then finally, we have Lauren McKeever, and Lauren volunteered as a science peer mentor. So huge congrats to all our silver volunteers who volunteered between 20 and 40 hours.
Amazing. Okay, so I'll start to call out our gold awardees now. Our first up is Adesola Ojomo-Amaka, who volunteered as an RA with UCD, also with our peer mentoring program, and also volunteered with UCD Students Union and UCD Women in STEM Society. Altamash Shaikh, who also volunteered at UCD RA, our peer mentoring program, and UCD Students Union with also UCD Women Plus in STEM Society. Apuruva Kulkarni, who volunteered with the Rotaract Club and also with UCD Indian Society. Ayushi Agarwal, who volunteered with Child Rights and You and also with UCD Buddy Coders. Caroline Dawson, who volunteered with Turn to Me with Citywide Education and also with Mind the Mind Ireland. We have Kyla Malloy, who volunteered with UCD Mountaineering Club. Claudia George, who volunteered with the Irish Cancer Society. Conor Doyle, who volunteered with St. John Ambulance. Fiona Ni Threasaigh, who volunteered with Dublin Simon Community. Haura Almatoa, who volunteered with the Protege Organisation and also Alnaha Organisation. Ian McDonough, who volunteered with the Order of Malta Ambulance Corps. And Iga Piotrowska, who volunteered with UCD German Society. Jennifer O'Malley, who volunteered with Dogs in Distress. Katie Francis, who volunteered with UCD Mentoring Programme. Komal Dundappa, who volunteered with Lekela Mentoring, UCD BO, and also Amnesty Galway. Marina Sweeney, Marina volunteered with UCD SU and also UCD Science Society. Megan Clark for her volunteering with UniNest Student Accommodation, and also Nida Ni Threasaigh, who volunteered with UCD Students' Union. Nikita Fernes for her volunteering with Enactus Ireland and Enactus UCD. Ronan Coleman, who volunteered as an RA with UCD. And Rossa Gilsenan, who volunteered with UCD Tradsock, the Solace Project, and also community mentoring. Sanghamitra Mukherjee, who volunteered with UCD BO and also VSI, among others. And finally, from our Gold Awardees, who volunteered for 60 hours, Sharon Omiwole, who volunteered with Livingstone's Christian Society. So a huge well done to everybody here for all of your fantastic volunteering. Thank you also for volunteering your time to come here to this tonight and to be part of this celebration. You all care so deeply, I suppose, and decide to step up and support the causes that you believe in, no matter what your personal costs are. And I was also thinking earlier, just from listening to Patrick, from what he was saying, and I suppose volunteers don't necessarily have the time, but you just have the heart to do what you like to do. And that just makes you so different and unique. And just congratulations.
Brilliant. I would echo that as well. And a huge thanks to all our attendees and to Patrick and to Joe as well for speaking. We're very much on time, which is great. But I hope you all got something from tonight. I certainly did. I'm so inspired and impressed by all the volunteering you do, and it's putting me to shame. I think I'll be going out volunteering next week for sure. And I suppose for anyone who has applied for the awards this year, we would encourage you again to apply next year. If you got a bronze, you might want to try for a silver or gold. And even if you got a gold this year, feel free to apply again for your gold award. And hopefully we will be in person with a big award ceremony. And also tell your friends, because we know this is just a fraction of the people who are volunteering in UCD. And I suppose it's a great starting point to start this year, but we want to build on it and make it bigger and bigger and better every year. But we will finish up there. Thank you so much to everyone. And I know people are saying thank you, and it's thanks to you is the reason we're here. So well done, everyone. And hopefully we'll get to see you before the end of term in person. But do pop in. Niamh and I are in the office the odd day during the week, and Joe as well. So if you're around, say hello. We're in science on the ground floor. You can come find us and say hello. But thank you, everybody.
Can I just